This happened in 2016 when I was a 17-year-old, first-year college student in film school. I'm now 22 years old, female. Name is Julia. I lived alone in my first ever apartment. It was really small, but I was really proud of my independence. I never felt unsafe in this apartment for several reasons. There were multiple gates in the residence that needed to be opened through a code only the people who lived there knew. My door had 3 different locks and it was right next to the university, so most people who lived in the neighborhood were college students. Nothing bad had ever happened in the neighborhood before. I've always been very careful with locking the door when I leave my home. I always check twice. I have slight OCD. So this one time, I leave to go to class and lock my door, but for some reason, I couldn't get the key out of the lock. It was completely stuck, so I went to go get the caretaker of the building to help me, but it wasn't there, and I was getting late for class. So I went to class with the key still in the lock. I took off the keychain first, so it was not too noticeable. When I got home, the caretaker was back, so he came to help me, and we couldn't get it out for 15 minutes until somehow he did. He told me the lock was damaged, but that I didn't necessarily need to change it if I only locked it once instead of twice. I just said okay, and that was the end of it. I really wasn't worried because of how safe I felt in this building. Flash forward to 2 months later, I was taking out the trash one night around 11 p.m. while on the phone with my sister. I remember telling her that I was taking out the trash, then that I would take a shower afterwards before heading to a party. As I previously said, I always lock the door, even just to take out the trash. Because of my lock being damaged, I only locked it once. When I got back to my apartment, I found the door unlocked, which immediately alarmed me. So I went into the apartment and locked the door immediately with 3 different types of locks. When you walk into my apartment, which is just 215 square feet, you have the main room in front of you and the bathroom door immediately to your left. I had left the bathroom door slightly opened, enough so I could see a man in my shower turning his back to me. Naturally, when I saw this, I tried to open the door and leave as fast as possible. Except, my main lock was damaged from 2 months earlier, and I couldn't open it no matter how hard I tried. In this moment, all I could think of was the fact that I had to leave as fast as possible. I jumped out of the window without really thinking. I figured it was the only solution, except I lived on the 2nd floor, so I immediately smashed my ankles in the landing. I started running in whichever way I could, and when I got a little bit further from the building, I looked back and a man was there, at my window, watching me run away. I thought of 2 possible outcomes. Either the man was going to jump and chase me, except I wouldn't get far with my twisted ankle, or he would get scared of the height and be locked in my apartment. Thankfully, he picked option 2. I went to hide in a bush a little further and called the police, who arrived in just 10 minutes because I lived close to a station. They pushed my door open and the man was there, sitting on my couch, holding a kitchen knife, waiting for me to come back, like he didn't think I would call the police. They arrested the guy and later told me that he had already been arrested for sexual assault, rape, attempted kidnapping, and attempted murder. They also told me how everything had happened. Like I said, it was a very friendly neighborhood, with mostly college students, so he got inside the building by other people holding the door for him. He then heard me tell my sister I was going to take a shower, which was why he was waiting in the bathroom for me. He crocheted my lock while I was taking out the trash. He apparently noticed me on the school campus and followed me to my home several times before succeeding to actually come in. He stayed inside waiting for me because I had recently changed my phone and the previous one was still on the table, so he thought I didn't have a phone with me to call the police. I don't live there anymore, but after that, to get into the building, we all needed identification proving we lived there. The building IDs were created and we had to scan them every time, and it was the only way to go inside the building. Nothing bad happened in the neighborhood after that. It's back to being very peaceful and friendly. I've known about this subreddit for a while now, but I've never gotten around to telling my own story, which, of course, I never thought I'd have. Since it's long, I won't bother with a whole long intro. This is all you need to know. This happened in my senior year of college, and I lived off campus. I had 2 roommates in my apartment, townhouse, Natalie and Katie. Anyway, Katie was out that night doing homework in one of the school buildings, and I was awoken at 3 a.m. when I heard some knocking at the door downstairs. I thought that was weird, considering the hour, but I figured someone had the wrong place and would realize and leave. The knocking didn't stop though, and I lied in bed for a good several minutes, thinking, yeah, they'll go away now. They'll go away. They'll get bored. As one might expect though, I started to growl confused, and then kind of freaked out by this person's presence. Then the knocking turned into banging, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Honestly, I probably should have called the police instantly, but it was in the middle of the night and I was just confused. So I headed to the top of the stairs to see Natalie standing near the door, staring at it. Her room was on the bottom floor, so she just had walked up to it. And we exchanged a baffled look because, what the heck, it's 3 a.m. This is weird. Natalie called out and asked them who they were and what they wanted. "We're friends of Katie's," said the voice on the other end, who sounded male and about our age. "We know her boyfriend, and we heard she was feeling down, so we came to surprise her." That was already a weird story because, again, 3 in the morning. But thankfully, Katie wasn't even home, so we both informed them of this. "Katie's not here. She's off doing something else." "Good. They're going to leave, right?" "They came here to see Katie. She's not here. They'll leave us alone and we can go back to sleep." "Just open the door." I know. If I hadn't called the police before, I definitely should have done it now. It was weird though. That night, I realized why people do stupid stuff in horror movies. Not only had I been woken up out of nowhere, but it feels surreal to be in a situation like this. Like there's no way you could actually be in danger. That only happens in horror movies and true crime documentaries and questionable creepy stories online. It would never happen to me. I'm just a random, ordinary, boring person going about my business. I don't need to call the police. I'm sure this will get cleared up and everything will be fine. So yeah, Natalie and I did the stupid thing and tried to argue with them. I told them that, again, Katie wasn't here. There was no need for them to stay. Eventually, Natalie asked what their names were. Throughout the encounter, we made out 2 distinct voices, but only one gave us a name. I texted Katie without telling me, asking if she was just friends with someone with that name. After a couple of minutes, during which we were still arguing with the stranger, Katie replied, "I am, but I don't think she knows where I live." That wasn't good, but even worse, the person on the other door had a male voice, so this wasn't a real name, but not the real person. Whoever this was, knew stuff about Katie, like who she hung out with. I told Katie to stay where she was and not to come back until we told her everything was okay. Finally, we told the guys that if they didn't leave, we were going to call the police. No, don't call the police. Don't call them, okay? If we wanted to do something bad, we already would have done it, right? Yeah, that last bit wasn't helping the case. Just open the door, okay? The attempts at reasoning with them basically devolved into them telling us, just open the door, over and over again, until we finally actually did call the police. We hid in Natalie's room and dialed 911 and explained what was going on. Thankfully, there was a police station close by, so it wouldn't take long for them to arrive. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of heading back into the living room and yelling through the door that we'd call the cops. But contrary to what you might think, that actually didn't scare them off. They seemed only mildly upset and kept arguing. To this day, I can only assume they just didn't believe us or something. For whatever reason, that was what caused them to freak out, and they drove off. The police arrived and we told them the whole story. Natalie revealed that a couple of times she had just barely peeked through the blinds of a window close to the front door, and she noted that there were two guys, but only one of them was ever at the door at any given time. It would switch, with one at the door and the other sitting near the driver's seat of a car parked out front, presumably for getaway purposes. So yeah, that's reassuring. They also hadn't looked drunk, according to Natalie, and definitely hadn't sounded like they were drunk. There wasn't much the police could do besides sweep the area a bit, but they told us that if the strangers had showed up again, to immediately call instead of engaging with them at all. And one of the officers did give us some self-defense tactics and told us what kind of household items / chemicals would work best for self-defense. After making sure everything was okay and reassuring us, they left, and we eventually called Katie and told her the weirdos were gone. She arrived and was understandably a bit shaken herself. We sat down and asked her who might have known where she lived. She did know people who had come by the apartment, so some people certainly, but Natalie hadn't recognized the guys outside as any previous visitors. Worse, it turned out that not only did they know Katie's friend's name, but they claimed to know her boyfriend even though he didn't even live in the same state where we used to go to school. She swore up and down she didn't know anyone who would want to hurt her. By this point, it was around 5 a.m, so I didn't even bother going back to sleep, since I was going to a workshop that morning. I told a lot of my classmates the story and freaked them out too, and the entire day, Natalie and I jumped at every unexpected noise, every shadow, every random movement. That night, it was hard to sleep. I expected to hear knocking at the front door at any second. Thankfully, they didn't come back, ever, but that almost makes things more unsettling, in a way. I'll never know what they wanted that night. Did they think we were hiding Katie? Was she seeing less than savory people in secret? Did they want to hurt her? If they did, why did they never give up and go looking for elsewhere? Was all of that just an excuse to get into the apartment of young women? Did they want to kidnap us, hurt us, rob us? Who knows? I try not to let it bother me, but I wish I knew my life was in danger that night. I have the feeling it might have been. After all, they weren't wearing face coverings, so they wanted to commit a violent crime. They might want to get rid of the witnesses. But despite how much I wish I knew, yeah, random strange men who insisted we let them in for unknown reasons. Let's not meet. I hope you guys enjoyed today's stories, and thank you for all the Redditors that participated in today's video. Now, don't forget to sit back, relax, and indulge in fear.